Hello everyone, it's JD here, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense. I hope you had a brilliant summer. With the holidays now wrapping up, I'm really excited that our regular activities will be starting again from next week. We've really missed having everyone together and can't wait to have you all back. Over the summer, we've been really busy planning some exciting things, not just for the rest of this year, but also looking ahead into next year as well. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to get involved, to have fun and connect with others. So thank you for being part of our community. We look forward to an exciting season ahead.
Here is this week's charity news for the 9th of August. All activities have now stopped for August and will recommence on the 2nd of September.
Here is this week's charity news, week commencing 29th of August.
Swimming at Medina is on Monday between 1:15 p.m. and 2 p.m. We have the whole pool, so whether you wish to swim lanes or just have gentle exercise in the pool, you will be made very welcome. The cost is £6 and transport is available, although limited. All members are very welcome to join.
Our new creative writing group will start on Tuesday the 2nd of September at Millbrook House at 11 a.m. This group will focus on imaginative writing for fun in a relaxed and welcome setting. The group is run by Kay. Please call the office if you'd like to come along or have any questions.
And yoga is on Tuesday at Millbrook House. This group is now full, but if you wish to put your name down on the waiting list, please call the office.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday, starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment. Laura, the ECLO from St Mary's, will be joining us.
Mix and Mingle will resume on Thursday at Millbrook House. There is a waiting list for this group, but if you are interested, please call the office and we will put your name down on the list.
Our monthly book group will meet at 2 p.m. in Newport Library on Thursday to discuss their new book. The group receive an audiobook from the RNIB and then discuss the following month at the meeting. The group is free to join, so please call the office to find out more details.
And Friday, September the 5th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m, here at Millbrook House, we will be holding our Living Well with Sight Loss course. This is an informative session run by Karen and Ruth, and everyone who has attended in the past have all really enjoyed it and taken lots of information away. Please call the office if you would like to attend.
Also on the 5th of September, our new Younger Active group is meeting at the Bargeman's, Newport at 4:30 p.m. for a social meal and catch-up to plan future activities, so please feel free to come along with new ideas and how you would like to see the group evolve. We will also be deciding on the new name for the group, so any ideas for that are also very welcome.
And the Hearing Cafe is on Monday the 8th of September at Churchill's Isle of Wight Military Museum, Northwood. This will also be the quarterly feedback and chat session. The time is 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. Karen and Emma will be attending. Please call the office and let Karen know if you are intending to come along.
September the 10th is our next Eye on Social, when we will be visiting Quar Abbey for a tour and to enjoy the gardens and cafe. We will be meeting at the Abbey at 1:30 p.m, ready for our tour.
On Friday, September the 12th, our Shorter Walk and Talk group meet at Seaclose Park, Newport, for a stroll along the river Medina to the Folly for lunch. More details next week.
We have decided to run our sponsored cycle ride, RID the White, for the whole of September, giving everyone a chance at having a go, either on our tandems, static bikes, floor pedal bikes, or their own bikes, to clock up as many miles as possible whilst raising funds for the charity. Also, if family members would like to take part, perhaps cycle instead of driving to work one day, and ask colleagues to sponsor them, please let Susan know in the office. There are sponsor forms ready at Millbrook House. If you are unable to participate but would like to sponsor the members, volunteers or staff members, please call the office. Let us make it a great success and raise a lot of funds for our amazing charity.
Our book stall at Freshwater Tesco is a permanent stand and is raising funds for the charity, and once again we would like to thank you for hosting our bookshelf. The children's books are proving very popular, so if you have any to donate, please drop off at Millbrook or top the shelf up next time you are in Tesco Freshwater.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 per month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled 50th Steam Fair Draws Strong Crowds to Haven Street. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway has celebrated 50 years of its much-loved steam fair, with bumper crowds enjoying the milestone event over the bank holiday weekend. Across 4 days, Haven Street was filled with the sights and sounds of steam, as towering traction engines, classic cars, vintage fairground rides and live displays delighted visitors of all ages. Engines travelled from far and wide, some even crossing the Solent under their own steam to take part. Special anniversary touches included traction engine games and a busy real ale bar, while steam-hauled trains linked the site with Wootton and Smallbrook Junction. The Golden Anniversary Fair has been hailed as the biggest and best yet, cementing its place as one of the island's premier summer events.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Road reopens as AAIB recovers wreckage from Shanklin helicopter crash. The Air Accident Investigation Branch, that's AAIB, has concluded its on-scene investigations at the site of Monday's fatal helicopter crash near Shanklin. But it could be a year before a report is published on what exactly happened. Over the past 3 days, specialist investigators have been working to piece together the events that led to the bank holiday tragedy, which claimed the lives of 3 people and seriously injured another. The chopper came down on the A3020 Shanklin Road around 1.5 miles from Sandown Airport. 54-year-old Captain Simon Hewitt, 52-year-old Justina Czokska and 49-year-old Wojciech Kolkowski all died when the Robinson R-44 helicopter they were flying in crashed into the ground. First responders pulled the casualties from the wreckage and began CPR, but nothing could be done. The 4th person involved, a man in his 30s, was flown to Southampton's Major Trauma Centre after medics from Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Air Ambulance spent 2 hours on the ground stabilising him. The AAIB says it could take up to 12 months for a full report into the accident to be published. In the meantime, it is expected that inquests into the 3 deaths will be opened and adjourned by Senior Coroner Caroline Summeray in the next few weeks.
Could disposable barbecues be banned on Isle of Wight beaches? Councillors to decide. From Isle of Wight Radio. Read by Joyce. Consultation on restricting the use of disposable barbecues, sky lanterns and balloons could be approved by Isle of Wight councillors. The Environment and Community Protection Committee, ECPC, may opt to give the Council Service Manager for Waste and Public Realm, Emily Tapsfield, power to carry out a consultation on a proposed Public Spaces Protection Order, PSPO. County Hall's PSPO would ban the use of disposable barbecues, the release of sky lanterns and balloons on or in council-owned parks, open spaces and on beaches. Areas such as seafronts, playgrounds and sports and recreational facilities would be included in the ban. A committee report from the Strategic Director of Community Services, Colin Rowland, says, under the powers granted by the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014, local authorities may introduce public spaces protection orders, PSPOs, to address specific behaviours that have a detrimental effect on the quality of life in a locality. PSPOs are intended to prevent or reduce persistent problems in public spaces through proportionate and evidence-based restrictions. In line with statutory requirements, the Council must consult with the Chief Officer of Police, the Police and Crime Commissioner, and other relevant stakeholders, as well as engage the public through proportionate and inclusive consultation. This report recommends initiating that process to assess community and stakeholder support for the proposed PSPO. The use of single-use disposable barbecues and the release of sky lanterns and balloons outdoors present a number of environmental and safety risks, including injury to people and animals from improperly disposed barbecues, fire hazards from barbecue waste in public bins, harm to wildlife and livestock from balloon and lantern debris, and increased clean-up and disposal costs for the Council. A consultation would first seek to establish whether the use of disposable barbecues, the release of sky lanterns or balloons, is causing a nuisance, and then further to understand support for the introduction of a PSPO, the report adds.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled New Landslide Plans to be Considered for Vulnerable Isle of Wight Areas. New plans to assist Isle of Wight communities most vulnerable to erosion, flooding and landslides could be introduced. The Council's Environment and Community Protection Committee, ECPC, is to decide on whether to approve the development of landslide and coastal change adaptation plans, LCCAPS. LCCAPs aim to help communities prepare for and respond to coastal changes caused by climate change, such as rising sea levels and more frequent storms, according to a committee report. In December 2023, an estimated 2.5 million cubic metres of material was displaced after months of heavy rainfall in one of the island's largest recorded landslides in modern times, near Ventnor's Leeson Road. It resulted in the closure of a key part of Leeson Road, the evacuation of roughly 20 properties, a local cafe left perilously close to the new cliff edge, and the A3055 now just circa 10 metres away compared to 30 metres before the event. In March 2024, another landslide took place in the Undercliff area of St Lawrence, affecting properties and closing Old Park Road. The committee report says, this paper sets out the needs for LCCAPs for areas most at risk from erosion, flooding and landslides, including Bonchurch, St Lawrence, Ventnor and West White. The paper seeks approval to apply for funding, collaborate with partners like the Environment Agency, and use national guidance to create flexible, long-term solutions. The plans will be community-led and based on recent evidence from landslides. Actions may include improving drainage and flood defences, relocating buildings, restoring natural habitats, and supporting residents through engagement and funding, as well as liaising with colleagues, ensuring resilience plans are in place for the highway network. These plans will reduce risks, protect public safety, and support the Council's goals for climate action, nature recovery, and sustainable development.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Paddle steamer Waverley to return to Isle of Wight this September. Waverley, the world's last seagoing paddle steamer, will return to the south coast and Isle of Wight from Monday the 1st of September until Sunday the 21st of September. Captain Dominic McCall, Waverley's master, commented, "We are delighted to bring Waverley back to the south coast and Isle of Wight again this September. Cruising round the island is always a memorable experience, and this year we are especially looking forward to the 70th anniversary celebration with SS Shieldhall, as well as our connections with the Swanage Railway and Isle of Wight Steam Railway, which give passengers the chance to enjoy a full steam day out by paddle steamer and by steam train. Taking a cruise aboard Waverley as she steams round the Isle of Wight remains a highlight for many. With breathtaking views of Alum Bay, the Needles Rocks and Lighthouse, St Catherine's Lighthouse, and the island's coastal towns, including Shanklin, Sandown and Cowes. This year's dates for steaming round the island are September the 3rd, 4th, 6th, 10th, 13th, 14th and 20th. On Wednesday the 3rd of September, passengers can join Waverley at Yarmouth for a special evening sunset cruise to Swanage, taking in the famous Needles Lighthouse and Hurst Castle. Every Friday throughout the visit, on the 5th, 12th and 19th of September, she will sail from Portsmouth, Southampton and Yarmouth to cruise along the Isle of Wight coastline, rounding the Needles and passing Freshwater Bay. These sailings will feature a special Seniors Bring a Friend Half Fare offer, adding even more appeal. Once aboard Waverley, passengers can savour the sight and sound of a real steamship, hear the telegraph ring, visit the engine room and watch the engine start to move and see the paddles turning through the portholes. With full catering facilities available throughout all cruises, passengers can enjoy a hot or cold snack, tea and cake in the afternoon, a hot meal in the dining saloon, or a refreshment in one of the period lounges, as well as a visit to the souvenir shop to take home an exclusive gift or memento of their trip on this famous and much-loved ship. Tickets for all sailings can be booked in advance at Waverley Excursions, all one word, .co.uk, or by calling the booking office on 0141 243 2224. Tickets can also be purchased on board Waverley. Children go for £1 on selected sailings.
Union urges Fire Authority to defer £1.6 million of cuts amid service crisis. From the Island Echo, read by Joyce. The Fire Brigades Union, FBU, and concerned members of the public are calling on Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire Authority to defer £1.6 million of proposed frontline cuts to the fire service at its meeting tomorrow, Friday. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Services, HIWFRS, has already lost 1 in 4 firefighters since 2010, and recent inspections reveal the service is struggling to meet its own emergency response standards. The latest HMICFRS report rated the service as inadequate in staffing and skills, requiring improvement in emergency response and resource management, as previously reported by Island Echo. It has been revealed that on Sunday the 24th of August, the service entered its degradation plan, operating with just 19 fire appliances across the region, only 3 on the Isle of Wight, yet again. Just a day later, the tragic bank holiday helicopter crash occurred near Shanklin. The FBU says that although the service responded effectively to the fatal crash, had the incident occurred just 24 hours earlier, there may have been no available response on the island. Despite these challenges, HIWFRS holds £23.9 million in usable reserves. The FBU is urging it to use these funds to plug the gap while it campaigns for more funding from central government. The service is yet to make a formal appeal to central government. Jamie Kelly, Fire Brigades Union Brigade Secretary for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, says, "This decision does not need to be rushed. The Fire Authority has the power to defer these cuts, use reserves temporarily, and fight for the funding our communities deserve. Once frontline services are cut, they are rarely restored. We must act now to protect lives. We urge the public to contact their local fire authority representatives and demand a deferral of the proposed cuts. A united voice can help preserve this vital, life-saving service." Mark Chapman, Fire Brigades Union Regional Secretary for Southern, adds, "Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service is on the edge of critical failure if these proposed cuts go through. The service is seeking to make £2.5 million of cuts over the next 2 years. This would mean losing dozens more firefighter posts. We are already on our knees after 15 years of austerity. There's nothing left to give." Tragically, on Monday, the Isle of Wight saw a helicopter crash which sadly claimed 3 lives and left another person critically injured. The fire service was able to respond, but if this incident had happened one day beforehand, we would have been left without fire cover on the island. Our ask of the Fire Authority on Friday is simple: don't make these cuts. The service has a reserve of £23 million, and this is an emergency. They must use that reserve to cover the shortfall while we fight for better funding from central government.
Good morning, I'm John.
And good morning to you all, I'm Imelda. And I start with the news items and sport with the rather sad thing that we all know about. Helicopter crash kills 3 people on board. 3 people were killed after a helicopter spiralled out of control and crashed into a remote field on Bank Holiday Monday. 4 people were on board, with the sole survivor in a stable condition in hospital. The man, aged in his 30s, was airlifted to University Hospital Southampton's Major Trauma Centre, Hampshire, and the Isle of Wight Constabulary confirmed. Emergency services were called to the scene off the A3020 Shanklin Road, between Whiteley Bank and Shanklin, just after 9:20 a.m. The aircraft came down and crashed into a hedge. It had departed from Isle of Wight Airport in Sandown a short while earlier. A major incident was declared at 9:47 a.m, but was later stood down. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary said it was called at 9:24 a.m. There was a multi-agency response to the scene, including colleagues from Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance, and the Air Accident Investigation Branch, a spokesperson said. A spokesperson for HIOWAA said, "We can confirm our dispatchers employed the air ambulance at 9:28 to an incident near Ventnor. The critical care team, consisting of a doctor and a specialist paramedic, were on scene, working alongside our emergency service colleagues. The Isle of Wight Ambulance Service also attended, with 4 double crew ambulances, a specialist paramedic in a rapid response vehicle, a critical care paramedic in another rapid response vehicle, a critical care paramedic in an RRV, and an operational commander. A spokesperson for HIVRS said, "Firefighters from Newport, Ventnor and Shanklin were called out shortly before 9 a.m. The road was closed in the immediate aftermath and in the days that followed to allow for an investigation to be carried out. Civic Aviation Authority records state the aircraft is owned by Adventure 001 Limited, but operated by Northumbria Helicopters. A spokesperson for Northumbria Helicopters confirmed that its aircraft, G-OCLV, which is listed as Robinson R442 helicopter, was involved in the accident during a flying lesson. The firm said the flight was departed from Sandown Airport at approximately 9 a.m, was carrying 4 passengers on board, including the pilot, and was undertaking a flying lesson. Shanklin Road reopened on Wednesday."
Scooter Rally returns for 2025 by Liam Chorley. The Isle of Wight was positively buzzing with scooterists at the weekend, as thousands descended on our shores for the return of the, quote, world's biggest scooter rally. The Isle of Wight International Scooter Rally, organised by VFM and the British Scooter Rallies Association, ran between Friday, August 22nd and Monday, August 25th. The bank holiday event, a much-loved fixture on the island calendar, saw Sandown Airport transformed into a hub of activity with a camping area, traders' village and a wide choice of bars and food stalls. A busy programme of entertainment over the long weekend included live bands, DJs, the return of the popular Soul Room and the International Custom Show, where some of the most unique and stylish scooters from across the globe were on display. Ride came alive once again with Jack Up's Ticket to Ride, a free-to-attend mini-festival on the seafront. The 11th edition of the event, which is part of the annual rally, entertained visitors with a healthy lineup of top island bands. A community effort aimed at supporting the MS Society Isle of Wight, the weekend was filled with live music, local traders, food stalls and kids' activities. Entry was free, courtesy of organisers Jack Up Events, in collaboration with Ryde Town Council. Venues in Sandown also hosted live music for the International Scooter Rally. The main highlight of the weekend was the Sunday ride-out, which once again drew huge crowds to watch the colourful parade of scooters. Riders started at the former Ryde Ice Rink, travelling via Puckpool, Nettlestone, St Helens and Bembridge, before passing through Yeverland, Sandown and Apps Heath, then looping back to the airport. The rally, which regularly attracts up to 10,000 scooter enthusiasts, is considered to be the world's largest event of its kind.
Man dies in crash along main route. An Isle of Wight man died following a serious crash on a main route through Arreton. The fatal collision has sparked a renewed police appeal for information. At around 2:15 p.m. last Wednesday, August the 20th, there was a collision on the A3056 between Arreton and Horingford. The crash involved a Skoda Kamiq and a Citroën C3. The Isle of Wight police confirmed the collision happened at the pedestrian traffic lights at Horingford. Commenting at the time, Sergeant Radford said, "The road is closed and this will cause a significant delay to your travel in this area. Please avoid the road. The road will be closed for the foreseeable future." The main road between Newport and Sandown, the A3056, through Arreton and Horingford, was closed by police following the collision. There were significant delays on the area, with motorists reporting heavy traffic on the division route on the Downs and through Newchurch. The police spokesperson told the county press, "A man is suspected to have sustained serious injuries in the crash. He was taken to Southampton General Hospital for treatment. 2 days later, police confirmed that the driver of the Citroën sustained serious injuries and later died in hospital. Police revealed the man to be 80-year-old Brian Welford from Shanklin. The 2 occupants of the Skoda received minor injuries, the force added. The road reopened later that evening. Police are keen to hear from anyone who witnessed the collision or the events leading up to it, including anyone with a relative dashcam footage. Anyone with information is asked to contact police on 101, quoting 4425 037 6934. You can also submit information to police online.
Bursary in honour of Garden Curator Simon by Kieran Wiggs. A new bursary has been launched for aspiring horticulturalists in memory of the former curator of Ventnor Botanic Garden, VBG. The Simon Goodenough Bursary for Horticultural Training and Work Experience has been created for island residents with a passion for horticulture, offering grants and scholarships to help them advance in their careers. The bursary is named after Simon Goodenough, who passed away in 2025. Simon played a pivotal role in transforming the VBG after the damage caused by the great storms of 1987 and 1990, showcasing Mediterranean zone flora from around the world. He also founded the Friends Society in 1987, now known as Ventnor Friends of Wight Horticulture, VFWH, which supports horticulture and horticultural education on the Isle of Wight. The trustees of VFWH, with the endorsement of Simon's family, have established the bursary scheme to continue his legacy. The bursary scheme is divided into 3 levels to cater to a wide range of applicants aged 16 and over, including those considering a career change later in life. Level 1 offers a grant of up to £200 for essential protective clothing for new entrants with limited financial means. Level 2 provides a bursary of up to £1,000, which could cover the cost of professional certification or travel/accommodation expenses for gaining work experience off the island. Level 3 offers a scholarship of up to £3,000 for proven high flyers to advance their career at a higher level, for example at RHS Wisley or Kew. The bursary scheme aims to assist island residents looking towards a career in horticulture, helping them to gain the necessary skills and experience to succeed in the field. The scheme is open to anyone demonstrating a genuine passion and drive for a career in horticulture. For more information about the Simon Goodenough Bursary for Horticultural Training and Work Experience, including how to apply, visit vfwh.org.uk. The scheme is a tribute to Simon Goodenough's significant contributions to the world of horticulture and his dedication to supporting the next generation of horticulturists.
UK's best staycation destination. The island has been named as the UK's best place for family staycations, beating the likes of Pembrokeshire and Hampshire. Over 12,000 staycationers from across the UK shared their top picks, and the results were tallied by Holiday Cottages Co Limited UK. Places were raked out for 15 for family friendliness, and finishing top of the pile was the island with a score of 12.2. One survey response said, "On the Isle of Wight, it's tranquil and so magical. A very unique place for a holiday for all the family, including the family pet." From the responses, holidaycottage.co.uk summarised that the island has all the ingredients for happiness, with plenty of fun days out for history lovers, beachcombers and thrill-seeking families alike. Highlights include the golden beaches in Sandown and Shanklin, the website said. For those feeling inspired by the new Jurassic World movie, you can find joy in the Dinosaur Isle Museum, which the kids can get up close and personal among the fascinating creatures which once roamed the earth, it said. The island was also singled out for its pubs, with the Corkhead Sandown given an honorary mention. Breathtaking walks were another selling point for families, and a particular mention was given to the stroll between Freshwater and the Needles.
Fight to Find Sister's Grave by Oliver Dyer. A man has spoken of his upset and disappointment over his 3-year struggle to find and commemorate his sister's unmarked grave. John Roberts from Wootton has been trying to establish the exact burial site of his sister, Sandra Mary Roberts, who died aged 3 in 1956. John made a promise to his parents that he would mark her grave, and in the process bring about some closure. "I'm 77 now, and you know I'm not going to keep going much longer," he told the county press. "I would just like to have some sort of small cross or something on there, and I don't know which one it is." John has criticised the Catholic Church for failing to keep adequate records, an issue he believes may span countrywide. Sandra died on September 16, 1956, when John was just 7 years old. It was suspected she had polio, but an autopsy later revealed her death was caused by a blood clot in the back of her neck. At the time, John's parents could not afford a gravestone, and Sandra was buried in an unmarked grave in St Saviour's Churchyard, Totland, just up the road from where they lived. John's father, William James Roberts, was a lieutenant in the British Malaya Police Force, but was shot and came back injured, later receiving the George Medal from the Queen. When John was a teenager, the family, including his mother Mina Mary, moved off the island. He returned when he was an adult with his own family. John planned to put a cross or something similar on Sandra's grave to remember her and fulfill his promise to his mum and dad. However, over the years, the churchyard has changed, and John can no longer recognise where Sandra was buried. He enlisted the help of an undertaker in Totland, who identified 3 unmarked mounds. John believes one belongs to Sandra, but cannot identify which one it is. His questions to the Catholic Church have gone unanswered. "I'm disappointed with the Church and a little bit upset that there will be no markings," he said. It's just a shame." The Catholic Diocese of Portsmouth said John should contact undertakers or the parish office, something he has already done. A spokesperson said, "We're sorry to hear about the problems that Mr. Roberts is having locating his sister's grave in the churchyard of St Saviour's. The administrator for the Totland Newport parishes, who would be able to help Mr. Roberts with his request, is currently on holiday. We suggest that Mr. Roberts contacts the parish office when the administrator returns at the start of September. We understand that Mr. Roberts has been given permission to place a plaque on his sister's grave when this has been found." When asked whether the Catholic Church holds records of its own, the county press received no response.
Crews battle flames as buildings destroyed. A large blaze destroyed 6 garden buildings in Cowes last Sunday, August the 24th. Fire crews from 5 stations, Newport, Ryde, Shanklin, Ventnor and Freshwater, were called to Stevenson's Road at about 4 p.m. They spent the next 4 hours battling the fire, with water carriers there in support. A spokesperson for Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service and firefighters in breathing apparatus tackled the fire using hose reel jets. Police officers have closed the road, and we urge nearby residents to close doors and windows due to the smoke in the area, they said at the time. Smoke was so thick it could be seen as far as the beach in Leap, and it was also visible from East Cowes. The blaze, which affected outbuildings and sheds, required police to close the road and advise nearby residents to keep doors and windows shut. Fire crews were also drafted in from the mainland, the county press understands. 2 people were treated by paramedics as firefighters worked to bring the situation under control. The fire was declared extinguished at 8:01 p.m, with 1 fire engine left at the scene to dampen down.
Drink driver fearing attackers tried to escape and crashed by Liam Chorley. A drink driver tried to escape from police while steaming drunk after mistaking officers for men who had been sent to attack him. Jimmy Ashby of Ashy Road Ryde appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates and was banned from driving. The 32-year-old admitted drink driving, driving without insurance and criminal damage in Ryde on February 21st. A further charge of driving without a licence was withdrawn. Prosecutor Giles Fletcher said police were called to Surrey Street in Ryde. He said officers found Ashby sitting in a car, and when they tried to engage with him, he tried driving away and crashed into a stationary car. The court heard he registered a blood alcohol reading of 159 when the legal limit is 80. Oscar Vincent, defending, said his most recent offence of a similar nature was almost 6 years ago, and Ashby only drove a very short distance. He said he had a disagreement with his partner, left her home in the early hours of the morning, and decided to sit in his car for around 30 minutes. Mr. Vincent said time passed. It was very cold, and Ashby turned the heating on to keep warm. He said Ashby had received threats that males would be set on him, and when he became aware 3 had approached his car and abruptly tried to open the door, he tried to drive away, but didn't get very far. Mr. Vincent said not long after the incident, Ashby was the victim of a severe attack and was now registered blind in one eye. "I didn't know I was steaming," said Ashby. "I didn't intend to drive." Magistrates accepted Ashby felt anxious and threatened at the time. He was fined £120 and disqualified from driving for 40 months. Ashby, who had 15 previous convictions for 34 offences, was also ordered to pay £90 compensation, costs of £85 and a £48 surcharge.
Tributes paid to rock and roll island legend. Tributes have been paid to the Isle of Wight rock and roll legend Graham Fenton, lead singer of Matchbox, who died earlier this month. Graham, who was 78, died suddenly following a medical incident on Yaverling Beach on August the 10th. Born on May the 28th, 1947, Graham grew up in Hanwell, West London, before moving to the island with his wife, Caroline, and their children 24 years ago. Graham began his music career with the House Shakers, recording a couple of albums with the band before a reshuffle saw them rebrand as Hellraisers. In 1976, when Hellraisers went their separate ways, Graham joined the rockabilly band Matchbox and achieved chart success with his bandmates in the late 70s and early 80s. Graham had several appearances on BBC's Top of the Pops, which hits such as Rockabilly Rebel, Midnight Dynamos, a cover of the Crickets, When You Ask About Love, and Over the Rainbow. Up until a few weeks before his death, Graham was still performing with a recent tour in Europe, taking him to countries including Finland and Germany. Loyal fans followed him to each performance, but he was always glad to come home to the island. His family said he will be missed so much by his relatives and friends, as well as his fellow musicians and fans around the world. Hundreds of Graham's fans took to social media upon hearing the news, paying their respects to a genuine lovely guy. One fan wrote, "R.I.P. Graham, you will be sadly missed. You were a very talented man and brought happiness to a lot of people." Another shared, "They say the nice ones go first. I knew Graham for many years. Not only a talented musician, but a genuinely lovely guy." Others described Graham as a true legend, adding that his music will live long in the memory. At least 4 Coast Guard vehicles, 2 paramedics, 2 police cars and 2 ambulances were called to the incident earlier this month, alongside the Kent, Surrey and Sussex Air Ambulance. However, despite the best efforts of emergency teams, Graham died a short time later.
Police investigate after Bajazet interfered with. Police are investigating after active Bajazets were needlessly interfered with in the West Wight last Friday. To protect the badgers, which are vulnerable to persecution, the exact location has been omitted. Badgers and their sets are protected by law under the Protection of Badgers Act 1992. Filling in their sets carries a potential prison sentence and an unlimited fine. Badger Trust Isle of Wight confirmed 2 badger set entrance holes were filled in last Friday morning in an area on the outskirts of Freshwater. The matter was reported to police, and Graham Lee for the Trust said he visited the site and spoke to witnesses who saw the individual responsible. Under previous guidance from Natural England, who are the government licensing authority for badger sets, I have left the entrance holes alone, instead of trying to dig them clear, which can often result in more damage being done, said Graham. The badgers will be able to use other entrance holes, and they will eventually be able to dig this clear, but they will cause more soil to be dug out. There is absolutely no need for anyone to interfere with a badger set like this. It is amazing how many people have come out in support of the badgers after hearing about this incident, which is good to know.
Fire station should be saved. Bembridge Fire Station should be saved for community use, one of the island MPs has urged the fire service. The Isle of Wight East MP Joe Robertson has called on the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service to keep the site, which is currently up for sale. He wrote to them on September the 19th, following consultation with local residents and Bembridge Parish Council. Although the station currently has no crewed fire appliance due to recruitment challenges, it provides a site for the local village emergency and reconciliation group to train volunteers, store equipment, and respond to local emergencies such as flooding. The Isle of Wight is making a strong case for it to remain under the ownership of the HIWFRS and made available for alternative community use, he said. While I recognise the operational difficulties in keeping the fire station running without active personnel, that should not mean the building is lost to the community. It would be a great shame for the premises to be disposed of rather than repurposed for local use. The MP has been working closely with Bembridge Parish Council, who have also asked that the fire station be retained for community purposes. A public consultation on cuts has now closed, and the results are due to be considered by the Fire Authority at a meeting held on Friday.
A 160-year-old carriage lifted from Garden. A train carriage, thought to be one of the first on the Isle of Wight, will be refurbished after being lifted out of a garden. Richard Green, who is developing a property in Gurnard, donated the carriage to the Isle of Wight Steam Railway. The carriage is believed to be one of 4 of the island's first that served the Newport to Cowes railway line in 1862. It was built by Joseph Wright of Birmingham. The 4 carriages were owned by Henry Martin, who operated the railway as a contractor. The exact identity of the carriage is not known, but it is thought to have been in the garden of the property since the 1920s. Richard said that having sought the permission of their neighbouring farmer, they were able to get a 60-ton crane into a field adjacent to the carriage to lift it out of the property. Richard said, "I'm quite pleased that it has gone back home, as it were. I didn't know anything about it. Once you looked at it more closely, you could see it was a carriage. It's nice that it's gone full circle. The carriage, now in the hands of the Isle of Wight Steam Railway, is expected to be restored."
Sentencing delayed a 3rd time. The sentencing of a paedophile caught with a huge collection of child sex abuse images has been delayed for a 3rd time. Logan Robinson of Nelson Road in Newport was due to be sentenced at the Isle of Wight Crown Court on June the 10th, July the 1st, and once again on August the 1st, rescheduled on each occasion due to delays in the case. The 25-year-old previously admitted 3 counts of possessing indecent images of children, 2 counts of distributing indecent images of children, possession of prohibited images of children, and possession of extreme pornography portraying a sexual assault. During a visit to Robinson's home on November the 15th, 2021, police discovered 2 mobile phones which contained 273 Category A images, the most extreme kind, 367 Category B images, and 561 Category C images. Robinson, who has received a huge file of images from a sexual offender living abroad, was caught distributing at least 6 images of children via social media. When interviewed by police, Robinson said, "I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't help myself." The 3rd delay in the case was so Robinson could seek legal representation. Robinson was bailed until the new sentencing date on September the 4th.
Young performers have made a national mark. Young island actors wowed national judges with standout stage performances. Elkie McGregor, 9, and Effie Bradley, 15, both from Bembridge, reached the finals of the National Youth Monologue Competition in London. The competition, run in partnership with the Ambassadors Theatre Group, attracted thousands of self-taped entries from across the UK. Jenny Law, principal at the Jenny Law School of Speech and Drama, said, "We decided to enter the competition at quite short notice. The girls prepared their self-tapes, and I'm so proud to have all 4 of them recognised. A competition like this offers good preparation for a career within the industry, if that is the choice. However, it gives so much more." 4 Isle of Wight performers were recognised in the competition. Kate Ortega from Newport received a highly commended certificate in the sixth form category for her performance as Shakespeare's Juliet. Lovella Faith Holland from Cowes was named South East Regional Finalist in the Key Stage 2 Contemporary category for her monologue from The Siege, which she learned in just 2 days. Elkie and Aoife were selected as national finalists and were among just 10 in their categories, invited to perform live on stage at the Ambassadors Theatre in London. Elkie performed Little Violet in the contemporary category, while Aoife took on the role of Beatrice from Much Ado About Nothing in the Shakespeare category. The judging panel included the Vice Principal of Italia Conti, a senior executive from the Ambassadors Theatre Group, and Spotlight's Best Newcomer award holder. Kate studies under Jenny at the Ella Shepherd School of Performing Arts, while Aoife, Elkie and Lovella Faith train with the Jenny Law School of Speech and Drama. Jenny said Aoife and Elkie met other performers from as far away as the Shetland Islands and from schools including Sylvia Young and the Royal Ballet School. They were able to see others, compare themselves and learn how to improve. They recognised they had earned the right to perform on the stage through their own efforts and skills. I cannot tell you what an honour and a thrill it was to watch them. It really was an amazing experience.
Lorry veers off road, causing gas main leak. Residents had to be evacuated after a lorry veered off the road, rupturing a gas main on Thursday, August the 21st. Emergency service, including police and firefighters, were called to Shanklin Road, Sanford. The crash occurred between the junction with Red Hill Lane and God's Hill Park Road. Police closed the road, leading to traffic chaos through God's Hill and Shanklin. Police confirmed no one had been injured in the incident. The council said Southern Gas Networks advised of some disruption to gas supplies in the area while the main was repaired, and at 6 p.m. the majority of evacuated residents had returned to their home and the road reopened a short time later.
Island Line to close for works again. Island Line is facing another lengthy closure just months after reopening. The railway line is due to shut fully from Saturday, October 18th to Monday, November 3rd, before closing between Ryde St John's Road and Ryde Esplanade from Monday, November the 3rd to Monday, November 17th. Engineers will complete works, including replacing switches and crossings, replacing rail and refurbishing the footbridge at Ryde St John's Road station. Replacement buses will be in operation throughout the repairs. George Murrell, Wessex Route Renewals Director, said, "We know how important the Island Line is to the local economy, particularly during the busy summer season. We've chosen to carry out these works in the autumn to minimise their impact as much as possible. By having these closures, we can carry out these extensive improvements allowing the Island Line to thrive for years to come.
New species of dinosaur discovered. A new species of dinosaur with an eye-catching sail has been discovered by scientists after fossils were found on the Isle of Wight. The new Iguanodontian dinosaur was identified by a PhD student in the University of Portsmouth and the Natural History Museum, Jeremy Lockwood. The retired GP had decided to name the species after sailor Dame Ellen MacArthur, who became famous for setting a world record for the fastest solo non-stop voyage around the world in 2005. The dinosaur has been given the name Istiochorus macarthuri, with the first word meaning sail spine and the second referring to Dame Ellen's surname. Before Dr. Lockwood's analysis, the fossils, which date back 125 million years, were assumed to have belonged to one of the two known Iguanodontian dinosaur species from the Isle of Wight. The fossils were originally discovered by Nick Chase, an island fossil hunter. Dr. Lockwood said, "While the skeleton was complete, as some of the others that had been found, no one had really taken a close look at those bones before. It was thought to be just another species of one of the existing species, but this one had particularly long neural spires, which were very unusual." Addressing the sail-like structure along its back, Mr. Lockwood explained that the most likely explanation is visual signalling, possibly as part of a sexual display. In modern reptiles, sail structures often show up more prominently in males, suggesting that these attributes evolved to impress males or intimidate rivals, he said. For the study, the researcher compared the fossilized bones with a database of similar dinosaur backbones. Dr. Lockwood said, "We showed that Istiochorus spines weren't just tall, they were more exaggerated than usual Iguanodontian dinosaurs, which is exactly the kind of track you expect to evolve through sexual selection." Professor Susanna Maidstone of the National History Museum said, "Over the past 5 years, Jeremy has single-handedly quadrupled the known diversity of the smaller Iguanodontians on the Isle of Wight, and Istiochordontiums will still have more to learn about early Cretaceous ecosystems in the UK. The fossils of these are now on display in Dinosaur Oil Sandown, and my apologies to every 6-year-old who would have said all these names perfectly.
Disappointment at toilet vandalism. A town council expressed its disappointment at being forced to waste its resources to address vandalism. Last week, 3 public facilities in Cowes were vandalised, resulting in blocked toilets, emptied sanitary bins, broken toilet roll holders, and extensive spray painting on walls and windows. 2 of the facilities, on Mornington Road and the Parade, are owned and managed by Cowes Town Council, while the other, the toilets within Northwood Park, is owned by Northwood House Charitable Trust. Cowes Mayor, Councillor Stuart Ellis, said, "It is disappointing that we are having to waste town council resources on cleaning up mindless vandalism within our town. We would rather be spending the resources on bringing forward new projects that bring about improvements to the town. We are working on a project to improve the cut area with a new living wall, new seating and planting, and also on plans to refurbish the toilets at the Parade. That's where we want to be focusing our resources, not on cleaning up after vandals. Anyone with information is urged to contact police online or by calling 101. We now have white memories and nostalgia. The county press has been bringing the news to Islanders since 1884. We've delved into the archives. 125 years ago, in September 1900, police were stunned when they opened the bag of a man who was acting suspiciously in Stapler's Road. A bird flew out of it. George Sheath of Newport was arrested and charged with poaching. Queen Victoria was delighted after she was presented with a card and bouquet by staff at East Cowes Convalescent Home. The flowers were a leaving gift as the Queen began her journey up to Balmoral.
And 100 years ago, in September 1925, an East Cowes couple received a royal congratulations on their diamond wedding anniversary. Mr. and Mrs. W. Brading were sent a note from Balmoral on behalf of the King and Queen, sending their very best wishes. Farmers were fuming when, after a successful growing season, the harvest was badly interrupted by unsettled weather. They were hoping that good weather would return in September, so that the harvest wasn't completely ruined.
75 years ago, in August 1950, the relaunch of Cowes Carnival was a success, after it was off the calendar for a number of years. Townspeople and visitors supported the event, and the town streets were dressed with bunting and streamers. Buck Ryan, a well-known cowboy who starred in a string of Western films, embarked on a fortnight's tour of the island. Young Islanders were pleased after the new school term was postponed for a fortnight as a result of the epidemic of infantile paralysis on the island.
And 50 years ago, in September 1975, Newport stunt driver Roger Sharp failed in his attempt to capture the world T-bone height dive record at Northwood Showground. In front of a crowd of 2,000, Mr. Sharp took a 500-foot run-up and proceeded to drive up a ramp. His car reached the height of 100 feet, 27 feet short of the world record. 3 small craft fell victim to a submerged rock situated just off the Needles. Solent Coast Guards brought the problem to the attention of Trinity House in the hope that boys could mark the rock. A prisoner in Parkhurst who was serving a life sentence set a new record after he became the person in the century with the most GCE passes. With 10 A-levels and 29 O-levels, the prisoner was well above the record of 33 passes.
Man's Fight Against Pollution by Alan Stroud. Pollution all around, sometimes up, sometimes down, but always around. That was a line spoken by Rick Mayall in The Young Ones in 1982. Well, you can say that again. In Victorian times, Britain was the largest manufacturer in the world, but it was also the world's largest polluter, because for hundreds of years the rivers and seas around Britain were regarded as legitimate dumping grounds for industrial waste. In July 1911, the state of the Solent and the island's rivers was causing concern. Large masses of peat, spilt coal and coal sacks, paint drums, sometimes half full, submarines giving off great volumes of gas, the use of disinfectants in the sewers, and the surface water from tar-sprained roads are polluting our waters. Into the fray came Percy Wadham of Newport. Percy was a well-known island character. He was known nationally for his angling skills and his fishing tackle designs, and locally as a wildlife expert. Percy was a vigorous campaigner against pollution, but his was a voice in the wilderness. In 1912, the county press reprinted a Daily Mail article featuring Percy. The Fishing Gazette says, "Few men have had such sad experience of fish poisoned by washings from tarred roads as Percy Wadham, who for many years has stocked and preserved the trout waters at Carisbrooke and Newport in the Isle of Wight. In 1909, nearby roads were tar sprayed, and as soon as the first rain came, the surface water ran into the trout stream and every trout was killed. By January 1925, 18,000 islanders sided with Percy and signed a petition organised by the island's MP. Under the headline, "The Isle of Wight and Oil Pollution," the county press reported, "Captain MacDonald MP is to present a petition with over 18,000 signatures against the pollution of sea and shore by the oil discharge by seagoing ships, causing wholesale destruction of fish and seabirds."
Not that it did any good. Parliament was unmoved. In December 1927, Percy spoke out in a CP article. Anglers have had their troubles in the past few years, which are summed up in one horrid word: pollution. Poisonous effluents from factories and sewage are poured into rivers in ever greater quantities. Add to that gasworks, coal gas plants and tarred roads. The ruined fishing has driven many anglers to fish in the sea, but the saltwater fisherman also has his grumbles. Much microscopic life, which is the food of newly hatched fish, cannot combat pollution, as all sea fish feed on one another. It's obvious that if there are no small fish, there will be no large fish. Some years ago, there was a fine trout fishing between Carisbrooke and Newport, but owing to the pollution from tarred roads and the gas plant at Carisbrooke, the water is unfit for trout, and the Luckley Brook will now not support fish life below Carisbrooke. The fishing in the small river between Merstham and Godshill was excellent until a few years ago, but since gravel washing has taken place, the water has been too muddy for the fish to breathe. The fishing below Alveston was considered by far the best, but the serious fish poisoning from the gasworks practically annihilated them. In April 1936, a correspondent wrote to the CP about salmon disappearing. Never again will the salmon come up the Medina and knock at Percy Wadham's door, asking to be caught by his special fishing tackle. Mr. Wadham undoubtedly is right as to the ravages caused by pollution. Decades later, the hippies had a go at alerting us to pollution. In 1970, issue of Friends said, "People have been worrying about pollution for a long time. Now it's no longer a problem, it's a crisis, and not something that will affect your descendants, it's affecting you now." Over 100 years after the first article, how are we doing on pollution? County Press editor Laurie Little reported in 2021, Southern Water has been handling a record £90 million fine after pleading guilty to thousands of illegal discharges of sewage which polluted rivers and coastal waters in Hampshire and Sussex. The offences were found to be caused by deliberate failings. In January this year, Southern Water announced a 53% price rise, while in July the CEO's pay packet was doubled to £1.4 million. The Environment Agency announced that serious pollution incidents by 3 water companies had risen 60% in a year, Southern Water being one of them. What Percy would have thought, we can only imagine.
We now have a public information item. 3 of the latest scams to be aware of and avoid. This is by Sally Ash, Isle of Wight Against Scams Partnership. Trading Standards would like to warn you about some of the most recent scams that have affected island residents. The first is a phone call claiming to be from EE, trying to find out about information about your account. Unsolicited calls are likely to be a scam, and you can verify this by calling your provider to check if it is genuine. The next one is a text claiming to be from the Department of Work and Pensions, DWP, pressuring you into making a claim for winter heating allowance. This will ask you to click on a link and states that if you don't follow the instructions, you will be ineligible for the benefit. This is a scam. This payment will be automatic. Do not click on links in texts and emails. The third scam is an email claiming to be from the DVLA, stating that your car doesn't carry valid tax and requesting that you click on a link to make a payment. This is a scam, and if you check the sender's email address, you can see that it isn't a valid www.gov.uk address. Victims have received threatening messages claiming their devices have been compromised using spyware such as Pegasus, and that compromising videos will be shared unless a cryptocurrency ransom is paid. These messages are fraudulent and designed to cause panic and extort money. They often include aggressive language, false claims of device access, and threats to share fabricated content with contacts. Do not engage with the sender and never send money. Forward the email to report@phishing.gov.uk. Do you know what to do if you come across a scam? For advice on scams, call Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline on 0808 250 5050. To report a scam, call Action Fraud on 0300 123 2040. For more information on scams, visit www.iwasp.org.uk.
And now we're moving on to What's On. And I have a few things here. What's on Wednesday, the 3rd of September, Sundown and Shanklin Military Band at 8 p.m, evening concert, Rylstone Gardens, Popham Road, Shanklin. There's Chicane at 5 p.m, live music, Robin Hill Country Park, Newport, 5th of September. On Saturday the 6th of September, there's Purple Zeppelin. The tickets cost £28 for that. And another one on Saturday the 6th of September is A Night to Remember Motown Show. A Night to Remember Motown Show takes you back in time to the 1960s. And Saturday the 13th of September, there's Jack D, Small World at 8 p.m. This one is Newport Comedy Club, Simon Brodkin, going on the 13th of September, £24 at 8 p.m. And I think that's all. Beautiful South Stars to Live show. Members of the Beautiful South are set to perform on the Isle of Wight.
Warrior Festival set for return. A popular music festival returns next month in the name of charity. Warrior Festival will take place at Robin Hill on September 6th and 7th, raising funds and awareness for the White Brainy Bunch, a charity supporting families affected by brain tumours. The festival promises a packed weekend of live music, immersive experiences and community spirit, with a lineup featuring 22 of the UK's top tribute bands and original artists. A spokesman for the festival said, "We're building something truly special. Each year we grow, not just in size, but in spirit." Warrior is about community, passion, and doing something meaningful through music. In addition to the main stage, the event will feature a woodland stage showcasing original Isle of Wight talent, including artists from Platform One, and a new dance stage curated by Our Girl G and powered by Secret Island. Tippy Experiences, a street food village, access to the full Robin Hill Park, and charity fundraising activities will also be part of the weekend. The White Brainy Bunch was founded by Ryde firefighter Mark Grimes and his wife Catherine, following Mark's brain tumour diagnosis in February 2015. Tickets are available at thepriceswhite.co.uk. A popular tribute act celebrating 10 years of touring will be performing on the island. Frankie's Guys, a renowned tribute to Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, is set to perform at Medina Theatre on September 20th, treating audiences to an array of Four Seasons hits. The set list is expected to nod to classics such as Big Girls Don't Cry, December 1963, Sherry, Walk Like a Man, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, Let's Hang On, Who Loves You and Grease. For more information and to view the latest tour dates, visit frankiesguys.com or the Medina Theatre box office. Frankie's Guys features stars from the global smash hit musical Jersey Boys, noted for their astonishing vocal harmonies and slick dance moves. The show comes highly rated by various outlets, with 5-star reviews from Time Out, TV presenter Bobby Davro, and ITV's Loose Women.
And we now go on to letters. And this is the one with name and address supplied from Freshwater. I'm prompted to write as I was incensed by a text message received from Southern Water to residents in PO 39 and PO 40 last Friday. It said, "We're aware some of our customers may be experiencing discoloured water in the PO 39, PO 40 area. You've been identified as potentially being impacted. Running your tap for about 20 minutes should clear any discoloration. We're in the middle of a drought. Farmers and crofts are suffering, as is wildlife. Parks and gardens are turning to deserts, and we pay for our water by the litre. Quite rightly, we have a hosepipe ban and have been advised to take 4-minute showers and use water wisely, among other things. Many of us, I'm sure, are saving as much wastewater as we can in the house to pour onto the kitchen, onto the garden, rather than tipping it down the sink. So many gallons of water that could have been put to better use literally went down the drain on the advice of Southern Water. Surely, if we needed to run off water, that could have been a dispensation to allow her to run it off through a garden tap and a hosepipe during an event, during a limited time frame, to water desperate plants or fill empty water butts. The garden tap is connected to the same supply as the indoor taps after all. Like many of your readers, the February 2024, I received the concerning news from Southern Water that due to a cyber attack, the security of my personal data had been compromised. I'm extremely careful to protect myself from identity theft and scams. Therefore, to be put at risk by a company that I have no choice other than to share personal data with was disturbing, to say the least. Advice on how to protect my personal data followed. Please take your own medicine, together with an offer of a 12-month membership to Experian Plus. Since then, we've had numerous reports of price increases, service issues, pollution, poor handling of supply outrages, failing to manage the wastewater network, significant debt, and a near doubling of the CEO's salary. No surprise, then, that this latest piece of advice on Friday afternoon prompted me to write to the county press, something I have never felt compelled to do in the past.
Beware of the empty homes tax, a letter from Dean Francis of Northwood. I recently discovered that the Isle of Wight Council has a vacant property council tax premium. The idea is to encourage regular residential occupancy by placing a substantial financial burden on properties deliberately kept vacant. It also captures properties vacant due to the death of a sole homeowner, where a marketed property does not attract a quick sale. 6 months after a death, full council tax is again payable, and a year later this doubles to the same rate applied to second homeowners. In the case of unoccupied properties, it escalates still further and dramatically year on year thereafter, even when the property is being actively marketed for sale throughout. It has been confirmed by the Council, both in writing and by telephone, that actively marketed properties, where probate has not been granted, are in scope for this tax premium. As an aside, this premium scale will also apply to those who market their vacant homes, having had to move from the island for work commitments, and where the sale drags on for any reason. It seems the options are to become a landlord as an executor of a will, assuming that is even legally possible or desirable to those individuals, or stump up the cash after a sale is made and probate is granted. No one is deliberately keeping a property unoccupied in these circumstances, which surely is the point of the law, but the council are raking in the cash to the cost of the deceased's estate. In the case I'm aware of, involving a one-bedroom retirement flat, the council tax liability alone is already a major beneficiary of the deceased's lifetime assets, and likely to be the major beneficiary as the liability multiplies until a sale is achieved. Anyone who has a will which includes a property likely to be unoccupied after their death should be aware that if the property's sale drags on for any reason, the Isle of Wight Council will be a substantial beneficiary of your lifetime's work, all for doing exactly nothing.
And this one is from Dr. Emma Sainsbury of Freshwater. We often hear in the news about different professions going on strike because they feel they are not paid enough. I understand their frustration, but I want to speak for those of us who never have that option, unpaid carers. I am the full-time carer for my lovely mum, who needs around-the-clock support 7 days a week. It is my privilege to care for her, but it comes at a cost. Carer's allowance is £83.30 a week, and you can only claim it if you earn under £176 a week after tax. Even if I earned the maximum and received the allowance, I would take home only about £279 a week, just over £14,500 a year. That equates to less than £2 an hour when you consider the reality of caring 24 hours a day. I am lucky, as a psychotherapist, to be able to work remotely at odd hours when my mum is asleep. Many carers don't have this chance and are left with even fewer options. For all of us, there are no weekends, no holidays, and no strike action available. Campaign groups have highlighted this injustice for years, yet little has been changed. It's time for more than a warm words. Families like mine need action. Could you work for less than £2 an hour?
And the last letter from Denise Spencer, Springfield Nursing Home, Shanklin. I'm an activity coordinator at the home and invited Vectis Brass Band to play for us on our Families Day in our garden, knowing one of our residents, Julia Scott, used to play with them. Julia, who is aged 93, was so happy to see them. It was lovely. She used to play the tenor horn with Vectis Brass Band up until the age of 87. Julia moved to Lake from Epping in November 1995 to help re-establish the Shanklin Town Brass Band, teaching children and playing with them for about a decade. She then switched to Vectis Brass, where she remained with them for about 14 years. Julia has performed at the Royal Albert Hall and at Westminster Abbey and toured to Germany and Switzerland with the band. Julia said she played the tenor horn because of the beautiful sound it makes. She added being reunited with members of the ensemble was fabulous and wonderful.
And with that, we will say, Imelda says goodbye to you all. Hope you didn't get involved with the downpour last night.
And John says goodbye to you all and wishes you a healthy and enjoyable week. The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the scaffolding news follows that.
Hello. Later, the festival is over, but with more visually impaired performers in Edinburgh than ever this year. What's the promise for the future? We'll be meeting some of the participants and getting their impressions. But first, it's back to the widely used screen reader JAWS and the changes in pricing that it seems UK users will have to pay in the future. Despite our best efforts in last week's programme, many listeners felt that we didn't quite get to the bottom of this. Not least one of the participants in our discussion, Steve Hyde-Dryden. And Steve is a JAWS user himself who runs a service for visually impaired people in the Lake District. And I asked him early in our discussion last week how much more he thought users in the UK would have to pay than those in the United States under the new arrangements.
It appears that a subscription for JAWS in the US is around about $100 plus or minus a little bit, which equates to £70 or something like that here in the UK. Now, the new proposed pricing for 1 year in the UK is going to be £420. Now, that to me seems infinitely more expensive.
Well, that point didn't receive a clear-cut answer during the main interview. So when it was over, Steve asked if he could pose the question again. In the event, it felt that he still hadn't received a clear-cut answer, so it didn't make the final cut of the programme. In retrospect, we agree with Steve and with a number of listeners that this had been a mistake on our part. So judge for yourselves. This is the response Steve got when he tried to put that question for a second time, both to Stuart Lawler of Sight and Sound, they're the sole distributor of JAWS in the UK, and Ryan Jones, who represents the company which sells JAWS in the United States.
Can you tell me why it appears that there is such a difference in price, which in my reckoning anyway is way beyond the difference between American currencies, etc.? And just before you answer that, don't get me wrong, I think the subscription-based scheme is actually very, very good, but not at that price.
The Home Annual Edition is a special program in the US and Canada. I think it's $104 for JAWS right now. But if you look at a regular home license, the subscription price, the perpetual price are fairly similar to the UK when you kind of do the math, within a number of dollars, pretty close to each other. So the outlier in that case is the Home Annual Edition in the US that is currently only available. We are and have been exploring ways to try to bring that to other places. I would say we're not there yet, but that's not to say we won't be able to get there at some point.
Can I ask, though, technically, why can it not just be done immediately?
Yeah, I mean, it's something from our funding and development structure. You know, for example, we provide support in the U.S. as a company. When we sell outside of the U.S., we have distributors like Sight and Sound who provide that support. And so when you look at how do you break the cost out across those licenses and for support to be able to provide it, for the sales infrastructure to be able to be provided, those are factors that come into play when we look at how do we price and can we offer a lower cost. It's certainly not to say we won't be able to get there. We just aren't there today.
Stuart, I have to come back to you and say, are these discussions going on? Is this something that you might be able to support?
Well, we're not talking about it yet. And the only reason we're not talking about it yet is because we're all getting our heads in Sight and Sound and our customers' heads around the new pricing and subscription. That's not to say that we won't be talking about it in the future. I hear what Steve is saying and I agree with where Steve is coming from. And I think it's something that we will all sit down and talk about and try to see where we can go with this.
Well, is this a cause for optimism? You tell me. But we will continue to monitor this issue. That I can promise the many JAWS using listeners in the UK. As indeed we have for many years now been monitoring blind and partially sighted people's right to cast their votes privately and independently in national and local elections. Some progress has been made in recent years, but is it enough and is it working? Well, that's what the Electoral Commission wants to know, and they want you to tell them about your experiences in casting your vote. Charlene Hannon, Head of Guidance at the Electoral Commission, has been telling me more about the purpose of their research and how you can take part.
We think it's really important that there is no barriers to voting for disabled people. And since the Elections Act came in 2022, the Electoral Commission in particular has had a role in producing new guidance to help ensure that those people who run elections manage them in a way that helps to ensure that everybody can vote with confidence and on their own and in secret. The guidance was published after the Elections Act went live in 2022 and has been used now in the elections in 2024 and also this year. We are using this opportunity to test how it's been working and really get the views of people who are impacted by disability when it comes to voting in person at the polling station, so that we can try to make sure that the guidance is doing everything that it possibly can to help people to vote independently.
One of the things you gave quite a lot of information about in that guidance was the issue of who could go into a polling booth with someone to give them any help that they needed and help them make sure that they got their vote in the right place. Presumably one of the things you want to know is that working? Has the message got across?
Now, the law did change to ensure that people could be able to bring in anybody who's over 18 to accompany them in the polling station to help them vote, even if they themselves are not an eligible voter. We have done a lot of work with those people who run elections, so the returning officer and people who work in polling stations, to help ensure that that message is clear and that that is really well understood. We really want to understand, not just from disabled electors, but also their family, also from interest groups and from electoral administrators themselves, so that we can try and strengthen the guidance to help everybody get the same consistent, well-run experience, no matter where they try to vote.
There has been some relatively new equipment around which enables people to vote using audio, but of course it was fairly early days and it all seemed a little bit random, it was just in a few places. Are you keen to find out how widely this is likely to be used in forthcoming elections?
Yeah, we're absolutely keen to know how these new measures are being used in practice and where there's been success stories. But also, if there are other things that people would find useful in polling stations, it's great for us to know. Whilst we can't mandate every polling station to have a certain set of equipment, we can make recommendations of equipment that we think would be very helpful based on our research and our feedback. And this consultation is a key part of that. We're also really keen to get real life examples of good practice and things that have worked, so that we can try and produce, alongside this quite formal statutory guidance, some less formal supporting documents that can help people to understand how they can put some tips and tricks into practice where they actually vote, and how we can all work together to try and ensure that all elections are as accessible as possible.
How can people get in contact?
There is a phone number, that's 0333 103 1928. If you go to electoralcommission.org.uk, there's a dedicated page on our news and views and our consultations. There's a page there specifically about the accessibility guidance consultation that we're running. There's an online form you can fill in, but also a way that you can get in touch with us to get any other accessible way of contacting us that you need. We'll help however we can to ensure that we get the widest possible range of views.
And we'll give that phone number again at the end of the programme. Charlene Hannon, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
So, it's over again for another year. But over time, the Edinburgh Festival Fringe has increasingly provided very effective nursery slopes for budding visually impaired performers. Chris McCausland, no less, cut his comedy teeth there nearly 20 years ago, and Maria Oshodi's visually impaired experimental drama group, Extant, has also been featuring again. So what have been the highlights? What have been the themes? And have there been developments which will enhance it as a place for us to enjoy the arts next year? Our Scotland reporter Ian Hamilton has been hanging around stage doors for the benefit of those who couldn't get to Edinburgh, to meet some budding stars and take a peek into the future.
I get very anxious and I don't really like travelling around on my own, so I have been mostly depending on my team, my partner who's also here with me, to get around.
Jasmine Tien is totally blind and has a show called I Dream in Colour, which is partly based on her life.
It is a coming-of-age story where my character, Sophie, learns that she has a tumour in her right eye and is offered the choice of a surgery to remove her eye, but she is struggling to make that decision.
And then it happens. Someone touches me on the shoulder. Someone is speaking to me. I think.
Hey.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh my god, he actually sounds quite fit, you guys. Hey. I'm Sophie.
I'm Sam.
Okay, not gonna lie, I was hoping for a less generic white guy name, but
If you don't mind me asking,
yes.
why have you got a stick?
Oh, I'm blind, so this is my cane, Bob.
Do you call your cane Bob?
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can't complain about generic white guy names.
I went through a lot of my life feeling some mixed feelings about how my parents chose to keep my eye, which led to many, many years of cancer treatments, which ultimately were kind of unnecessary. It was inevitable that I was going to lose my sight. I reached the age of about 23, decided that I can't deal with this risk anymore on my life and made the decision to remove it.
Many of you are fighting for equal rights. I'm still fighting for the right to exist. And I'm sick of the world telling me what to do with my body and my life.
I think that everybody can relate to quite a lot of the themes in it, this idea of reclaiming your body autonomy, the feeling that your body is someone else's property and that you can't make decisions about your own body.
Jasmine is not the only performer tackling the topic. I'm off to meet a VIP, so I've been told.
Yes, so my name's Tom Skelton and my show is called VIP, Visually Impaired Papa.
Tom, what's your show about?
I'm blind myself and it's about my experiences of being a blind dad for the last couple of years, but also my fears and anxieties in the build-up to the birth and how it's panned out.
And if any heckles, therefore, could be verbal rather than mimed, that would be much appreciated. I'm not entirely sure what a mimed heckle would look like, but presumably something along the lines of... This is, of course, the two-fingered go forth and multiply salute made famous at Agincourt.
I've come to Edinburgh for many years doing group shows, so this is always a great way to test out a new idea, try something new and develop it, because doing the daily show you can really bring it to life and you can work out what works and refine it and hone it.
How do you feel kind of exposing your feelings in such a public way?
It's both cathartic and it's a way to discover what I really think about some of these experiences and feelings. When people know you're talking about personal stuff and making fun of it, I think that strikes a particular chord with the audience.
Do you think it almost kind of normalises disability by talking about normal things?
I think definitely, yeah, because by bringing the personal experience, the audience understands that it's about my particular experience, and that happens to be with the blindness as a particular factor.
During this show, there will be quite a few jokes about the blind. But it is absolutely fine, because I myself am legally blind. And actually blind. I want you to laugh. I need you to laugh.
I'm telling these stories, even if they were a bit difficult and a bit traumatic at the time, I'm asking them to find the funny in it like I found the funny in it.
It's not just performers. There's been a real effort to improve access for audiences. So, with that in mind, I'm off to meet Holly Gifford. She's got a show called Big Little Sister at Zoo Playground.
The title came about because it's about me and my big brother. My big brother has multiple disabilities, so he's registered deafblind and he has cerebral palsy, amongst other things, and like trying to tell a true story about disability rather than one that is for an audience of exclusively able-bodied people to consume in a way that's like makes them feel better about themselves but doesn't actually make any real change. The door swings open. Standing in it, an elderly man I later discover is my father, holding a newspaper in one hand and his disabled son in the other. They missed my birth. To be fair, I did arrive early. News of my arrival probably didn't reach them in W.H. Smith. I was born happy, healthy, average. In all my 4 minutes on this earth, I've been upstaged. And so I've been working with Extant on their Enhanced programme. So it's like when we add access once the show is already made. So I'm going to be running programme notes and a touch tour. So if we remain seated for the time being, I am going to individually bring out items for this touch tour and then get them to be passed along, I think would be the easiest way. And just to describe what you're feeling, this is the waistcoat that has like a satin bow on it. It has quite a lot of exposed stitching. So here I have the red fan that I fan myself with that says Barcelona on. So feel free to have a play around with this. It's pretty robust. I'm just going to start passing it along now, so it's just in front of you. So this is just to give a sense of the size of the boards that I am holding up, and this would be within the Welsh scene. So this one that I'll be passing around has a printed symbol of someone looking really scared. I think during the show at this point I say, "This is the Happy Patrick." So he does look terrified in this image. It's been really fun looking at the complete show and thinking, how do I make sure that this is including visually impaired audiences? What moments of the show need more work on or need to be explained? And how do I deliver that in a way that is like an extension of storytelling? I mean, it doesn't feel like an obligation, but I think sometimes that's how people treat making a show accessible, which it really isn't. It's just a different way to tell a story.
After Hollis' show, I wanted to know more about how they made the whole experience more accessible. The Turks tour and training was developed by the blind-led theatre company Extant. Maria Ashodi is their artistic director.
Enhance is a kind of method that we've developed at Extant, which is all about creating affordable, kind of lo-fi ways of describing shows for visually impaired audiences before they go into the show, so they get all the detail about the appearance, about the props, about some of the main action without any spoilers, usually delivered by the artist who's performing or a member of the company. And then the visually impaired audience can go in with the full knowledge that they're going to not miss anything in the show.
Do you find sometimes that the technology that we receive for audio description can get in the way? Do you think this is a better way of doing it?
Well, I think it's an alternative way of doing it. I think that there is something about having traditional audio description, and a lot of visually impaired people, definitely that's what they prefer, but not all shows can be audio described. I think if a company actually brings description creatively into the process, we urge them to try and do something for visually impaired audiences.
In the almost 80 years of the festival's existence, it's constantly changed and evolved. Now it appears that more blind people are coming to the fore, and disabled people are no longer, so to speak, on the fringe.
Ian Hamilton, thank you. And that's it for today. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk with your comments or your questions, or you can leave your voicemails on 0161 836 1338. And that phone number again to register your voting experiences with the Electoral Commission is 0333 103 1928. From me, Peter White, and this week's producer, Fern Lulham, goodbye.
Scaffolding and skips news, week commencing 29th of August.
Newport area, 1 to 8 Malthouse Court.
Ryde area, White's Fish and Chip Shop, 41 to 42 High Street. 25 George Street, St Mary's Catholic Church, 55 High Street. 57 to 59 High Street, Bembridge. Fellowship House, 20 Green Street. Ex-Barclays Bank, 7 High Street. O2 Shop, Holyrood Street. Ryde area skips, 27 Daniel Street, 26 Quarry Road and Nelson Place.
And in the Cowes area, Cameo of Cowes, 16 Bath Road, 93 and 94 High Street, the Portland Inn, Worsley Road, Gurnard, Cowes area skips, 17 Albert Street and 12 Albany Road, East Cowes.
Sandown area, viewing platform, Venue Road, Slipway, Cafe Arona, 2 High Street, 4 High Street, and the Old Comical, St John's Road.
Yarmouth area, Bank House.
Shanklin area, Nationwide, Regent Street. Shanklin Conservative Club, 6 Palmerston Road.